Okay, yeah, well, welcome, guys. So it's great to have you. We're going to be doing, of course, the OPT presentation today. It's a bit of a presentation, so this usually takes about an hour and a half, and then people always have a million questions, but usually that time is really, really useful. Everybody I know who attends this, at least the people who give feedback, usually say it's very, very useful stuff. And, you know, when we have these OPT consultations with students, Ms. Bowles and I, the other F1 advisor, we can almost always tell who's attended one of these things and who has not, based on the sheer terror and shock that the students have when they find out a bunch of stuff that they weren't aware of before. So really, really glad you guys are getting educated on this stuff. But you know, typically I give these presentations to about 20 people at a time. We've just got 3 today. As we're going through, you're welcome to ask questions if questions come to mind. If you could kind of wait until I get to the end of the sentence or the slide to ask them, that would be fantastic. But we can do it a little bit more informally than we typically do for that reason. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll start taking a look. And just so you guys know, this is being recorded. I think you all saw that in the email message that I sent out. This will go on our YouTube channel, but it's a really good educational tool for our other students who aren't able to make it to one of these live shows. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at what we're going to be discussing today. So we're going to talk about what OPT is. We found over the years that people have a lot of misconceptions as to what OPT is or isn't. And so we like to make it very, very defined and clear what it is exactly. We're going to talk about when you should apply for OPT. This is an incredibly time sensitive and time important thing that you're applying for. And we want to make sure that you're applying exactly when you need to be able to get your EAD card in time and start work. We'll talk about how you apply for OPT. A lot of misconceptions about this one as well. A lot of our students have this idealized picture that they'll just come in for their appointment. They'll hand me their documents. I'll press a little red button on my desk. Their EAD card will pop up and I'll hand it to them. So that would be fantastic if that was the case. That would save me a lot of time. It would save Ms. Bowles a lot of time. There are quite a few more steps involved in it than that. So you guys are going to have to do the bulk of the work. We just kind of give it the stamp of approval. What your responsibilities are during OPT. So again, a lot of students, they think that they're totally free. They don't have any responsibilities anymore to the ISS office and their F1 status, but that's definitely not the case. And we're going to talk about that, some of those responsibilities you'll have. And then again, you know, if you have any questions or discussions along the way, you know, kind of wait, give it a pause. So until I'm able to complete a thought or a slide, but then I'm happy to answer those questions for you. So we want you to walk away from this feeling 100% satisfied as far as the information that you guys got. But yeah, to get things started, what is OPT? Why did you come here to listen to me talk for an hour and a half on your Friday afternoon?
Okay, it's an internship after the graduation.
Okay, it can be an internship. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an internship, but it is something that, yeah, facilitates being able to do an internship. You guys have any idea of what it gives you, how long you have it for, what kinds of things you can do with it?
It's basically like the opportunity to work after being, I think, 1 year enrolled in a college or university, and you can work in the field of studies that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, great. Yeah, so it is a work benefit, absolutely. And I like how you said that it has to be related to your major field of study. That's really important. You guys know how long it's good for?
I think 1 year, and then you can get an extension, I think, for like 2 years.
Yeah, for STEM, absolutely. Yeah, that is the case. Oh, and one thing I didn't ask you guys, so who's an undergraduate and who's a graduate student? Who are my undergraduates? All graduate students? Okay, yes. Great. And STEM majors?
Yes.
Yeah, Luke, okay, yeah.
Engineering.
Okay, cool, yeah. So yeah, this will be very applicable to you then. And yeah, what is OPT? So it's an employment benefit, just like we said, for students who are in F1 non-immigrant status. It's optional because it does not require you to earn academic credit, unlike CPT, which you may have used for an internship or similar opportunity. So OPT is something you do optionally after you've completed your program. CPT is something that you do during your program. So it's part of your curriculum. So two totally different things at totally different times. It's practical because it gives you real world hands-on experience in your major field of study. So that's a really important point that Lucas brought up. So it has to be directly related to your major field of study. And the reason for that is that it's supposed to provide training. It's intended to enhance and expand your knowledge and skill in your major field of study, not simply to provide a work authorization. So many of our students, they always say it's employment, it's getting a job, it's getting money. So it is those things, but the way the government sees it is that it's training. So for you to be able to do your careers, go into your careers, to apply some of those things that you learned during your studies in the real world. And that's really, really important because that's the way the Department of Homeland Security sees it. So if you're not doing this as training, if it's not directly related to your major field of study, and the Department of Homeland Security finds out, that can be a very bad thing. So really, really want to keep that in mind. And very importantly, it's not a status. So there is no such thing as OPT status, not in this dimension, not in this universe. So there's no OPT status, there's F1 status. The whole time you do OPT and STEM OPT, you're in F1 status. Why do I emphasize that? I said that in the previous slide, and then I'm saying it now. Why is it so important to remember that you guys are in F1 status for this? What does that mean? Why is that relevant?
Because we have the responsibilities of F1 students.
Exactly right, Mahdi. So yeah, with F1 status come F1 responsibilities. So one of the reasons this is so important is you guys still need to get travel signatures while you're on OPT and while you're on STEM OPT. In the past, we've had students, they didn't attend this seminar and they weren't aware of that. So they were on OPT, they decided that they were gonna go, they had a great time back home, so traveled back to China, traveled back to India, traveled back to Brazil, and then what happened when they tried coming back into the United States with no travel signature? Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine. Yeah. You guys know what happens. So yeah, you get to go in the back room, maybe you get into the country, maybe you don't, and it's all because you didn't, complete this one travel e-form that takes about 5 minutes to complete before you left. So that's why we really, really do emphasize this point. And types of OPT. So there's pre-completion OPT. This is really rarely used. I've only ever authorized this once in 4 years of doing this. So typically people do CPT instead. So we're not going to cover pre-completion OPT in this seminar. What we're going to focus on is post-completion OPT. So post-completion OPT is valid for 12 months. It's available to all students in F1 status, regardless of major. And you must be employed in any job directly related to your major field of study for at least 20 hours per week. Has to be 20 hours a week or more to be considered full-time employed, not 40 hours. So some students think it has to be 40 hours to be considered full-time employed. Really, really important that it's 20 hours or more to be considered full-time by the Department of Homeland Security. Cannot have more than 90 days of unemployment while you're on post-completion OPT. On day 91, you're expected to depart the United States. Can include volunteer activity if no violation of labor laws. So a lot of our students, when they first get approved for OPT and their EAD card becomes valid, they go and they do volunteer activity. Why do so many of our students do that here at the University of Arkansas? Why do they volunteer? Mahdi is like, I don't know, that's crazy. I want to make some money. What's up?
We become a volunteer because we want to maintain the status. We are not offered a job.
Exactly right. Yeah. So it's to avoid those unemployment days. That's exactly correct. So what a lot of students will do is they'll volunteer 20 hours a week, the minimum, in the lab, like working with their professor as a TA or doing like research, and they spend the rest of their time looking for that big job that they're hoping to get with the Fortune 500 company. So making a really good salary. For the majority of our students, that doesn't happen right away. It takes a little bit of time to find something. And so this is a nice thing to keep in your back pocket so that you can avoid accruing unemployment days. Fortunately for you guys, I mean, the job market right now is crazy in the United States. Like, they have more jobs than they have workers in this country. Hope that stays the case through January and February, and that you don't have to worry too much about the volunteer thing, but we'll have to see what happens.
So
And
there is just one question.
sorry, is it okay if I just finish this one thought?
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
thanks. But I'll definitely answer your question, Madi. So yeah, it can also include self-employment. So we have some very entrepreneurial people, like in Walton Business, in Bell Engineering, who decide that they want to do self-employment, or they want to do a startup. So maybe they're going to do like some kind of a startup company. So that's possible to do during post-completion OPT. And sorry, Madi, what were you going to ask?
So you said we have to work 20 hours per week. So is that for a full-time job or a part-time job?
So 20 hours a week is considered full-time by the Department of Homeland Security. Usually when we talk about full-time employment, like, casually, we say 40 hours a week. But for immigration purposes, for avoiding these 90 unemployment days, 20 hours a week or more is considered full-time. So
we can do it part-time, right? If it is...
You can, but then the clock is still ticking on your unemployment days.
So if we, for example, work 19 hours per week, so we are actually considered unemployed, right?
If you're working 19.75 hours a week, you're considered unemployed. Once you get up to that extra 15 minutes, then you're considered, full-time employed. So yeah, and it's literally like that. So yeah, good question. And then the STEM extension. So we have 3 STEM students in this conversation. We actually have some information at the end of this about STEM OPT. If you're interested, and if you still want to stick around and listen to me talk about OPT, we'll see if that's the case by the end of this thing. But you're welcome to stick around for that. It's about an extra 5 or 10 minutes. But the STEM extension is available to students who have completed a degree in a major designated by the Department of Homeland Security, not as designated by Andrew Van Loo, not as designated by Ruby Bowles. So every semester I have 1 or 2 students who want to try and negotiate and haggle with me. And, oh, well, I'm a psychology major, but I took a chemistry class and I took a stats class, and I think that I should be considered STEM. Unfortunately, I'm not the judge of this. So the Department of Homeland Security gives us a list. If your major is on the list, we can apply for STEM with you. If not, unfortunately, we're not able to file an application with you. And very importantly, it's only available when students are already engaged in an authorized post-completion OPT period. So a big misconception that a lot of students have, our STEM students, is they think that they get authorized for STEM OPT the full 3 years. Not like that. First, you get authorized for your 1 year of post-completion OPT, and you start on post-completion OPT with everybody else on campus. Then towards the end of that first year of post-completion OPT, you STEM students get to apply for the STEM extension, and non-STEM don't get to apply for it. But it's really important to remember that first you have to do post-completion OPT, then later you get to apply for STEM OPT. And STEM OPT is only available when students are employed by an employer who participates in Homeland Security's E-Verify program. So has to be an E-verified employer. And this is a certification that the company must apply for, or the institution must apply for. So if you want to find out from a company if they're E-verified, you would want to talk to their human resources department. They would be aware of this. If you ask your job interviewer, they'll probably look at you like a crazy person because they'll have never heard of this. But it's the human resources department you would want to talk to. And so that means no self-employment is permitted during STEM OPT. So because it has to be an E-verified employer, and there's no volunteer activity that can be counted as employment during STEM OPT. So that volunteering in the lab, so that being a TA, can't do that. For STEM OPT, you have to have a job lined up before you apply. So, and it has to be E-verified. The nice thing about post-completion OPT is you don't have to have a job lined up. Most of our students don't have a job when they go to apply for post-completion OPT. And we're not going to talk too much more about STEM now. We're going to save that for the end. We also have STEM webinars that we offer if you want to find out about something exclusively about STEM OPT. And we also offer those, of course, virtually, and we record those, and they're available on our YouTube channel. So once your EAD, that's your employment authorization document, looks like a little driver's license, that's your work authorization. Once that becomes effective, you must not accrue more than 90 days of unemployment during post-completion OPT, like we said. Days of unemployment are cumulative. So what the heck does that mean? If days of unemployment are cumulative?
If you have a few days, like 30 days here and then 2 weeks there, you just add up all the days.
Exactly right. So some of our students, they really want, our idealistic, optimistic students, they want the clock to reset once they find a job. So you can't have 89 days of unemployment, volunteer for 2 days, and then the clock resets and you're back at 0. That would be a very nice system, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. So to give you an example, if your EAD becomes effective on June 1st and you do not begin a job until July 15th, so you have to count all those days between June 1st and July 14th as unemployed days, and that's 43 days total. So you subtract 43 from 90. So of course, that would mean that you would have 47 days of unemployment remaining in this scenario. And ultimately, you must monitor and keep record of how many days of unemployment you accrue. We don't do that for you. That's something you'll want to keep track of. And you can do that by, keeping it on an Excel spreadsheet. You can keep a journal or a notebook, and you can also use this great tool. So timeanddate.com, there's a hyperlink if you want to access it from the PowerPoint slides. And it just takes you here, and you can punch in June 1st, 2018. So July 14th, 2018, calculate, and it spits out 43 days. So that's also another way that you can do things. When should you apply for OPT?
"90 days before the last day, like of class or exam or work."
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty good info. So yeah, you can apply 90 days before your program completion date. So that's when you should apply, when you can apply. When should you apply?
Immediately.
Exactly right. Yeah. Well, not immediately, but as soon as you're able to. So because if you apply now, so today's the 17th. For our December 17th graduating undergraduates, they become eligible tomorrow. If their application is received by USCIS today, 91 days before, they will reject the application and keep their $410 check. So has to be inside the window. So not immediately, but you're very close. As soon as possible is the correct answer for this one. But we'll talk about why. So the earliest date you may apply for OPT is 90 days prior to completion of your coursework requirements, grad or undergrad. So ISS will not issue an OPT I-20 more than 90 days before you complete coursework requirements. Applications filed with USCIS too early will be denied. And we know this for a fact because about 2 or 3 years ago, we had a student who got a great job at JB Hunt, Fortune 500 company right here close to home in Northwest Arkansas. She got really eager and she scheduled her appointment 91 days before her program completion date. So just like it would be today. She was really anxious to get her application in. She paid a ton of money to have her application arrive the same date at the service center in Chicago. It arrived 1 day too early. They rejected her application and they kept her $410 check. And she had to apply all over again a couple weeks later when she got her rejected application back. Really, really locked tight on this. So 90 days before and then 60 days after program completion is the latest date that you can apply for OPT. So you have a 150-day window that you can apply, but we don't even care about this 60 days at the end. Please don't even think about that. Think about 90 days before, because that's when you really want to apply if you're going to apply for OPT. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's so important. And remember, applying for OPT refers to the date your OPT application is received by USCIS. It's not when you complete the application with our office. It's not when you do your consultation with me or Ms. Bowles. So it's when your application and everything is received by USCIS. Either the electronic application or the physical application has to be received then. And clarifying our terminology a little bit. So for immigration purposes, completion is not necessarily the same as graduation. So a lot of students, they think that when they walk across the stage at Bud Walton Arena, that's when they've completed their program. That's actually the ceremony. That's the party of your completing. What the government says your program completion is a little bit different. So regardless of your graduation date, your degree conferral date, or the date you participate in commencement or walk, your completion date for OPT purposes, for undergrads and coursework only grad students. Are any of you coursework only grad students? No? Thesis, dissertation?
Yes.
Okay. Kingsley, you have a thesis dissertation? I think you said you did.
Yeah, does that mean coursework only? Just
What's that?
Does that mean, is that what coursework only means? Thesis or dissertation?
No. So if you have a thesis or dissertation, you're not coursework only.
Oh, no, I have a dissertation.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
I can't help you with that one. So, but yeah, so in that case, for graduate students in thesis or dissertation programs, a couple of possibilities, 3 possibilities. First, completion of coursework requirements if thesis or dissertation is not yet finished. You don't have to complete your thesis or dissertation to apply for OPT. So you can apply when you complete your coursework and if your assistantship is done. I've seen people work on their thesis dissertation while they're actually on OPT. So, but just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. So I'm working full time now, and I'm a graduate student, and it's hectic. It's pretty crazy when you're trying to start a new career. So think if you go and you get a job in Florida, Kingsley, you're starting a new career and you're trying to wrap up this dissertation thing, that could be a lot all at once. I wouldn't be able to handle that. Maybe you might be a better person than me. Some people, they can balance all sorts of crazy stuff in life. Oprah Winfrey can do that. Jeff Bezos, these like brilliant people that are way smarter and much more ambitious than me can. I wouldn't be able to do that, but you guys know yourselves better than me. It could also be final deposit of your thesis or dissertation to the graduate school after defense and edits. So when you submit your final dissertation or thesis, that's another option. And then the last day of graduate assistantship appointment, if later than either of these other 2. So a lot of students will use their last day of their assistantship. That's a very common one for graduate students to use. And so for most graduate students, that's going to be December 31st of this year for the people who are finishing this semester. So yeah, 3 possibilities. And really recommend that you guys figure out exactly what this date is going to be. So you can talk to your academic advisor and your GA advisor to find out what this is. But I've seen students complete the application and they think that they're finishing on one date, and it'll turn out the advisor says something else. Ultimately, we go by what the advisor says. That's what the Department of Homeland Security wants us to do. So make sure that you're communicating well with your advisors about that, because you don't want any surprises. Immigration surprises are not like birthday surprises. Usually they're very bad. So we don't like surprises in the immigration business.
I had a question.
Oh yeah, go for it, Lucas.
Are we able to see what the advisor answered? My advisor did answer. Do I just have to ask him, or can I see his answer?
You can ask him, or you can come and talk to us after he's approved it. So once he's completed his section of the e-form, we can tell you what he's put down.
Okay, so whenever I have the meeting with you, we will be able to see.
Yeah, I would recommend finding out in advance, because that's going to determine when you can request your OPT to begin. So I strongly encourage students to have it figured out what date you guys are going to ask for your OPT to begin before you even come into the appointment. So,
okay. But
or at least have an idea, and we can talk about it a little bit.
Does the academic, does my advisor see what dates I put in, and he either approves them?
I'm not sure. I think he might, but I would just communicate with him just to be sure.
Okay, yeah, it's
So,
probably
yeah.
too late. I thought he just like either says yes or no, basically, to my
Mm.
dates that I put in.
Not for graduate students, because there is this flexibility with the thesis or the dissertation. So if you're, once it's approved, or if you think it's been approved, you can always jump on live chat and I can just go ahead and let you know what he says.
Okay, yeah, it's approved. I know that it is.
Do you have do you have a decent relationship with your advisor?
Oh yeah, I can email him.
Okay, because you make it seem like you're like going through me and like not trying to talk to him. I hope he's not like beating you or anything. So
No,
I know some people that they don't have good relationships with their advisors. So I'm glad to hear yours is a positive one.
no, it's positive. I just feel bad bugging him Friday.
Oh, okay, good. All right, okay, it's because he's such a nice guy, the guy, you don't want to bother him. Okay, that's much better. All right. And although you cannot apply for OPT more than 90 days prior to your program completion, it often takes more than 90 days for your application to be processed. So really want people to be aware of this. And this is another reason why you want to apply as early as possible. On average, it takes 90 to 100 days for USCIS to process OPT applications. And when I say average, I'm saying average of averages. I remember one time, at the beginning of the pandemic, actually, I was shocked by this. We were seeing record time of returns on EAD cards. We were seeing like 60 days. So they were getting processed. I was shocked by that because I thought it was going to take longer. About 3 years ago, of course, during the previous presidential administration, it was taking as long as 120 days. So, but the average of averages is about 90 days, sometimes 100. You may want to consider requesting an OPT start date later than your program completion date to allow extra time for processing. And you may request an OPT start date as early as the day after program completion. You may request an OPT start date as late as 60 days following program completion. So for our undergraduates who are completing their programs on December 17th, what's the earliest date they can apply for post-completion OPT, since they know exactly when their program completes?
Tomorrow.
Kingsley, come on. Wait 1 second, Lucas. Kingsley is majoring in mathematics, so I want him to answer this one.
I was gonna say that sounds like today, is it not?
So December 17th is the finish for the undergraduates.
Well, we have to look at timeanddate.com.
What's that?
We have to look at timeanddate.com.
No, you don't. You guys are STEM students, so the
But
earliest you guys can apply.
Isn't today September 17th?
December 17th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to count 90 days before that.
No. So you can request an OPT start date as early as the day after program completion.
Oh, yeah. December
And program
18th.
completion is December 17th for the undergrad. So what's the first date?
18.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 17 plus 1, 18.
Yeah.
So, and
No,
then 60 days
that is-
after program completion is the latest date that you can request your OPT to begin. So what would that be? About-ish. This one's a little bit harder. I'll be impressed
February
if Kingsley.
17th.
February 15th, February 16th, somewhere in there.
somewhere
I
in
don't
there.
know exactly. That one you might want to do timeanddate.com like Muddy said. So that's your window to apply. So, or to request a start date. And Muddy, did you have a question?
No, you said that the graduation date for undergraduates are December 17.
The program completion date is, yeah. The graduation date, I think,
okay,
is
so
the
because-
19th.
Yeah, because each month is 31 days, so they probably have to wait for 3 days from now until they can apply for it.
So that's when they can apply, but we're talking about when they can request it. So.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Okay. So
I had one last question on this one.
About this one? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I like December 17th, we could apply starting tomorrow. Is the Homeland Security or whoever processes that paperwork, are they starting on it even if my EAD card activation would be set to February 15th? Would they still start working on it like and finish within 90 or 100 days, or would they wait and then finish in like end of January?
It's just first come, first served, the way it usually is in America. So as soon as your application gets in, doesn't matter what date that you requested it to start. They start processing it the moment it arrives. And so that's another reason why you want to apply as early as possible. So because if you request February 15th, if that's what you ended up choosing, and you apply on Monday, then there's a very, very high chance you're going to get it before that start date.
Okay, yeah, I was just asking because I would like,
Oh,
like
sure.
not leaving, we cannot leave the US during like this
Yeah,
time, and I would like to go home for Christmas from
sure.
today. That's a really close window of like 1 or 2
Yeah,
days.
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, and I hate that because yeah, we discourage, we'll talk about it a little bit more. We really discourage traveling while you have an OPT application pending.
Yeah.
And that's like exactly what I would want to do. If I were you guys, I would say, I can't work during this time. I'm waiting for this thing to happen. Why not go home and spend some time with the family? But we
Yeah.
just discourage it, and we'll talk about why a little bit later.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. But yeah, so this is our application timeline. I always have to see a visual representation of it. So that's just how my brain works. So, but you have a 150-day window for filing your OPT application with Immigration Service. So we have program completion date. So for our undergrads this semester, they're finishing on December 17th. 90 days before is the earliest date that they can apply. And I think Madi, you said, what date is that?
It's 3 days after now, after today, because each month is 31 days and they have to account for that.
So it's actually, so technically tomorrow is the first date that people can apply. So, but I'm not coming in on Saturday to apply, like to process OPT applications all day. I love you guys, but yeah, that's not happening. But Monday, you can schedule an appointment for Monday, and I'll be happy to help you on Monday. So, but that's the earliest date for them this semester. But really, September 18th is technically the first date. That's 90 days before. And then 60 days after, we said, I can't remember, I can calculate it later if you guys want, but 60 days after program completion would be about-ish, maybe February 15th for those who are undergrads completing on December 17th. And then right in here, this is the window that you can request your OPT to begin. And this is another really big reason why we really encourage you guys to apply as early as possible. Every semester we have students who apply out here. So they're oh, I wanted to wait to complete my degree to apply for OPT. Bad idea. So, or something else, they didn't hear about this thing of like taking 90 days. They apply right here. And so if I apply here on February 10th, and the earliest date or the latest date I can apply is 60 days after program completion, that's a 5-day window that I have to request my OPT to begin. And that means that for about 85 days after, I'm just still waiting, and I'm getting a lot of days of unemployment. So we really, really want to apply as early as possible for that reason. Any questions about this timeline? This usually is something that students have a lot of questions about. No? I'm not that good of a presenter. Come on, I must have missed something. No? Okay. Oh, wow. Good job, me. I'm stuck at technology, but I can present apparently. All right. So processing time. Once USCIS receives your OPT application, processing usually takes about 90 to 100 days on average. So plus mailing time for the EAD. Very importantly, there is no option to obtain premium expedited processing on OPT applications. Everybody thinks that there's some way to get their application sped along. Some people think maybe they can put some money, some cash into an envelope, sneak it under the desk to Andrew, that Andrew can somehow get their application moved along faster. I wish that was the case. I would love to be a corrupt foreign student advisor and be able to be bribed by you guys, but it doesn't work that way. I always tell students, even if my own mother was applying for OPT, I wouldn't be able to get her application expedited. We have no control over this. I've heard students say that if you write to your senator, they can get it sped along. I've never heard of anybody getting any time of expedited processing. So on these applications. So again, you really want to apply as early as possible. And we strongly recommend that you, yeah, we talked about that. Remember that even if you apply at the earliest possible date, there is no assurance you will receive your OPT approval by the date you complete your academic program. So yeah, please plan accordingly. Oh, and this one. Oh, any other questions about the when you should apply before we move on? Perfect. All right, how do I apply for OPT? Just bring your documents in, throw them all on Andrew's desk, let Andrew take care of the rest.
No, we have to go to ISS link and
Great.
complete some form, and our advisor has to give consent to that. Then we have to.
Are you reading the slides or do you know all this stuff, Madi?
Yes, actually, I know.
Oh wow, you're smart, Madi. Good job. You're the head
Yeah,
of the class.
because you told me you are going to talk about the online application thing. That's a new stuff. That's the reason I joined this meeting.
Wow, Madi, you really did your homework. I'm impressed. So you get an A for today on the OPT seminar. So yeah, okay. Oh, and then what else? Keep going, Madi. Let's see how much of this you know.
Yeah, and our advisor has to give consent to that, and we have to collect some documents like 2 passport photos taken by union ID stuff. And then we have to get a check or money order, probably from a post service center or a bank.
Okay. All right, well, I'm just going to stop. You're going to take the whole presentation away from me. We're just going to jump sections in a moment here. Let's go ahead and we'll move through the slides. But yeah, you're on the right track. I was just trying to get a general sense of what you guys knew. But yeah, you're stealing the whole presentation from me. So let's go ahead and we'll work right through it. First of all, have to be eligible for post-completion OPT benefit. Please make sure that you meet all of the criteria below. Currently hold valid F1 non-immigrant status. You guys are all F1 students. We're good there. Have to have been lawfully enrolled for at least 1 academic year in SEVP approved educational institution, just as Lucas was saying at the beginning. So you guys have all been enrolled full-time, University of Arkansas for a year, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so you guys are good. You have not already been authorized for OPT at the same academic level for another degree program. What the heck does that mean? That's, yeah, Kingsley, he doesn't know what the heck. So yeah, help Kingsley out here, help me out here. What does that mean? So if you've already done them, oh, go ahead, Lucas. Yeah.
So basically, if I've done a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, that would be considered like the same level of degree. So I couldn't, after I've done an OPT, I could not reapply for another OPT on the same bachelor's level. But if I do a master's degree, then I could apply again, I think. And if I then do a PhD, then I could also do again.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So you get 1 chance at doing OPT at each level. So exactly right. So once you've done it on 1 level, so you don't get to go and get another degree and do more OPT and just do OPT for the rest of your life. So we have 1 or 2, well, we have 1 or 2 master's programs that are just like a year long. And like operations management is 1-year program. So we have some students who want to be able to do like all these master's degrees and keep getting, yeah, OPT based on that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And can't have been authorized for 365 days or more of full-time curricular practical training. Anybody done curricular practical training full-time? No?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How much, Madi?
From
About-ish.
1st to August 6th, that would be about 66 days, I think.
Yeah, so you're totally safe on that. So step 1. So Madi was actually absolutely right. Have to complete the e-form. So you'll need to go into the e-form in ISS link. You can access that by clicking on F1 practical training, and it gives you this e-form. So you have to enter in your academic advisor information, GA advisor information, determine your OPT date, and enter in the OPT information. And you'll also be asked to upload the documents so that you have scans of that will be including in your application. So that's step 1. And then you click submit on your application. And then It goes to your academic advisor and GA advisor. A lot of students think that they just can fill out the application, click submit, and then it's Andrew's job. Or they think that they schedule the appointment. Can't do that yet. Now it goes to your academic advisor and your GA advisor, and they have to complete their portion in ISS Link. And so here you can see this is clearly a graduate student because it shows date of completing coursework, date of the assistantship ends, and day that the final thesis or dissertation is deposited. And this is what we use to determine the program end date for you. And so what end date does this person have to use based on this information?
This is June 15th, I think, 2019.
Yep, June 15th. Yeah, absolutely. Because the assistantship ends on June 15th, and we can't be doing any on-campus work. So once we apply, or once our program ends. So yeah, it would be June 15th, 2019. This person would have had to use as their program end date. And preparing the items you'll need for your application. So first is the fee payment. So personal check, cashier's check, or money order payable to the Department of Homeland Security for the application fee. And I think somebody said it earlier, the application fee is how much?
410, I think.
$410, exactly right. Cashier's check or money order. Oh, and this is if you're filing by mail. So very importantly, this is only if you're filing by mail. Cashier's check or money order, where can we get that?
Well, besides the bank, I think I had a friend that got a money order from like Walmart or something.
Yep, yeah. You can go to the bank, you can go to Walmart, anywhere else. Can go to Harps, can go to the post office. So you guys have a number of different options to get that. If you use a personal check, has to have a name and an address on it. Must have those two things. You can use somebody else's personal check. I've seen people use their spouse's check. I've seen them use like a parent's check. If you can convince a friend or somebody on the street to pay for you, that's awesome. Like more power to you. That I'd be impressed. I haven't seen that yet, but that would be very impressive. So you got, yeah, it doesn't have to be you who signs it. But yeah, if you're filing online, have to use credit card, debit card, or checking account details if you're filing online. Can't use any kind of paper format of paying. And too recent, no more than 30-day-old passport style photos. So write your name and your I-94 number on the back of each in pencil or ballpoint pen if you're applying by paper. Where could you get 2 passport style photos? No more than 30 days old. What's the place that always does it right? I think somebody said it earlier.
Union?
Yeah. Actually, they've made one mistake. So this is my 5th year of doing this. I've seen them make one mistake. They've been perfect other than that. They charge a little bit more than Walmart and CVS, but they almost always, I mean, they've done it right every time except for once. I've seen Walmart not do the correct size. So these things should be 2 by 2 inches. And I've seen them do more like an old wallet style photo, or if they're not perfect squares, we have a problem. I've also seen them allow people to wear glasses on their face. Can't have your face obstructed in any way for passport style photos. So if you get something besides a student union, please make sure that we approve them first, or that we give you the thumbs up on them, so that you don't send the wrong kind of photos. And remember, these are US passport style photos. So if you got passport style photos back home in the Bahamas, back home in Germany, they might be a different size. So please keep that in mind. Print out of your most recent I-94, and please remember, most recent I-94, the number changes every time that you enter the United States. So we want the most recent one. Original passport. So we won't send that to USCIS, but you'll want to include a copy with your application. You're required to do that. Your previous I-20s and DS 2019s. Was anybody a J scholar previously? Had a J? Okay, so no. Oh, Lucas, yeah. You don't remember? Or you can't figure out how to unmute? So,
1 second, my window closed.
oh,
And I
gotcha.
couldn't get it back open. Yeah, I was a J student before on an exchange program. Yes.
Perfect. And that's totally fine. We just need to have that SEVIS ID from your J program because we need to include that in your application.
So
we actually
all
don't need
years,
we don't need the physical DS 2019, but we do need the SEVIS ID from it because it will be different than your F program.
So I had an F1 visa in 2014, and then 18 I had a J, and now I have another F. Do we
Oh
need
my gosh.
all 3?
Wow, you love it in the United States. So you love the land of just the freedom here is amazing. So yeah, I'm totally joking. All right, but make sure, because that means you'll have 3 SEVIS IDs. So from your first F program, from your J program, and then now this new one. So make sure you have all those available because we do need to include that on the application.
Okay, better go for them.
If you don't have, because some people, please hold on to your DS 2019s and your I-20s until the day that you die, because you never know if you're going to need to use those to get like a business visa, or if your kid comes and studies in the United States, if you want to apply for a tourist visa to go and visit them. Maybe you want them to go to the University of Arkansas. We hope that's the case. And you want to come and visit them here on campus. You'll want to have those I-20s just in case you need those for a visa application. And then eShip Global Shipping Slip if you're filing by mail. So if you're filing by mail, we have this service where you can set up a shipping label, and it already is pre-made so that the shipping label goes to Chicago, to the lockbox there. You can set it up yourself, but we have that just because a lot of students find it more convenient. And you can select the shipping options you want. If you want it expedited, overnighted, if you want to have tracking on the package, we recommend tracking. You can set that all up and pay for it with eShip Global. But again, that's only if you're filing by mail. Once you complete your OPT e-form and the advisor has submitted their portion of the e-form, now you can schedule an appointment with us. But we're going to check and make sure that everything is correct and is ready to go for the appointment before you set it up. Lucas can tell you about that. So I was tough on Lucas this morning because he was missing just 1 or 2 very, very small things from his application. The reason why we're so difficult about this is in the past, we had so many students would schedule OPT appointments. They didn't have everything ready, and then the appointment was wasted because they came unprepared. And that meant somebody else didn't get to apply early. So because of that wasted appointment, I don't think that's what you would have done, Lucas, but we had a student once who, this is the other reason why we have this policy. I had a student once who literally scheduled 6 OPT appointments in 1 week because she really, really wanted to make sure that she got everything filed that week. And that's totally unfair to the rest of you guys if one person goes and takes up 6 appointment slots. There's a short window to file these things. They're very time sensitive. And so we want to make sure that everybody can apply as early as possible. And so you'll call this number once everything is taken care of. You'll call this number and you'll be able to schedule your OPT appointment with Calypso at the front desk. Be sure that you request a special 60-minute OPT appointment to process your OPT application. So you can't schedule this on the ISS website. Students go all the time. They're looking for the OPT appointment, and there's no scheduling that except through our front desk. If you do not schedule the appropriate type of appointment, we unfortunately will not be able to process your application until you reschedule. We've had students, they want to get in earlier, so they schedule like a 15-minute or a 30-minute consultation. That's not enough time to go through everything for us to complete everything with the application. So we really do need all that time, the 60 minutes. Step 5, assemble your OPT application. So obtain your OPT I-20, you have to get that from us. You cannot provide that yourself. And that has the OPT recommendation on the back. You have to get that from us or your application will absolutely be denied. You'll get some other materials from us. We'll go over how to assemble your application. We'll talk to you about how to complete it online if you are filing through the online platform. And yeah, we'll just go over a bunch of reminders that you'll want to know for when you get approved. And you guys will be the ones who assemble your OPT application. using the instruction sheet provided by our office. And we really recommend scanning a copy of your final completed application for your own records. If you file online, it will give you the option of downloading your application and saving it or printing it. Really strongly encourage you to do that, because then you have evidence of what you actually entered it in to the USCIS website. Really, really strongly suggest that you hold on to that. And as far as the online versus the paper application, I know that you are really curious about that, Madi, and just want to be able to answer any questions that you guys have about this. So, and we'll talk about some of the differences right here. So filing by mail. If you're filing by mail, you'll ship your application to USCIS. You'll use that shipping label that you created through eShip Global. You'll ship your application to the lockbox. If you want to know what the address is, you can find that right here. So if you would like to have your EAD card shipped to ISS, you're welcome to do so. So for a lot of students, so like Kingsley is thinking about moving to Florida or to Texas. Maybe he gets offered a job in Florida, he moves down to Miami, and so he needs to have his card shipped to our office because he doesn't know where his address is going to be in Miami yet. We can do it for that reason. Other times, students just feel like it's a safer location. Maybe their apartment, they don't want to have it sent there. Maybe they have some weird neighbors. They don't like their roommate, something like this. You can have it sent to our office and then we can ship it to you. You can come and pick it up, or you can designate a third person, like a friend, to come and pick it up for you. Totally up to you. Please do keep in mind though, if you ship it to our office, allow an extra day or two. People, as soon as it arrives, so people freak out and they want to like run down here immediately to get their EAD. I totally understand. I would be the same way. Unfortunately, when you get that notification, it means it arrived at the post office downtown. Still has to come to campus. We have to go and pick it up, scan it, and then notify you that it's available. That's why we have to allow for that extra 1 or 2 days. Online. If you're filing online, set up a My USCIS account if you have not already done so. This is something that you would do from the Department of Homeland Security website through USCIS page. You'll gather your electronic copies of the documents. Of course, you don't have a shipping label, and the photos listed in step 3. So you're going to upload everything in scanned format. Please make sure they're nice, clean scans. We'll talk about that in your appointment to make sure everything looks good. Log into My USCIS and select I-765. Do not do this step until you have received your new I-20 recommending OPT and your I-765 template. I don't know why this happened at the beginning of online filing, but people were not being forced to include their OPT I-20. I didn't hear what happened because this was happening to people all over the country. We're reading about it through a forum for international student advisors. All those people got their applications rejected. So because they weren't forced to. Unfortunately, USCIS, they don't care about making sure everybody gets, their OPT EAD. They process these things. So we really want to make sure that your application is complete and it has to have that OPT I-20. Also, most of the stuff, 99% of the stuff that gets asked on that online form, we provide to you on the I-765. And some of those things you won't know how to answer correctly without the I-765 template that we're going to provide you. So please wait for that before you actually complete your information on USCIS, My USCIS. Complete and submit form and fee payment. And bear in mind, once you have paid the fee, your form cannot be canceled or refunded. So make sure that you definitely want to apply for OPT before you submit that fee, because there are no refunds. Once you've submitted your application, be sure to download and save your payment confirmation and draft I-765 for your records. Please retain that. So that's really, really important. Any questions about the online or the paper based on what we've said so far? A lot of people are really curious now that we have 2 different ways to file. Yeah, please, Madi. Oh yeah, you can just go ahead and start throwing questions.
So can we do this process together?
A lot of students want to do that. Unfortunately, the amount of time for the appointment doesn't permit for that, because we have so much to go over just in the 45 minutes that we're with you. We're just not able to do that because it takes so much time, and then we're not able to process everybody's application in a timely manner. If you want to set up the My Uscis account beforehand and look over everything and bring like a list of questions, you're more than welcome to do that. So, and we can answer those questions in the appointment. You can also schedule or go on to live chat afterwards if you have any questions, but we really only have enough time in that consultation to do the things that we have set out.
And have you collected enough statistics to tell us whether the average or the variance of the time to complete the process of application is better than the non-online process?
That's another great question, and unfortunately the answer is no. The reason is that at the beginning of the e-filing, a lot of students filed e-file, so too many of them. So USCIS only had a certain number of people that they had processing these applications in Virginia, and so a lot of people's electronic filings were delayed. And so we were seeing the electronic files were taking a longer amount of time to get EADs. That was the first couple months. Now it seems more even, but we never know what shifts might happen at USCIS because this is still a very new thing. One of the advantages to filing online is you get your receipt notice instantly. So you get that and you don't have to pay for shipping. So you save some money on that as well. The problem is it's not as tested. Paper applications have been around since before I was doing this. It's always been a paper application. The problem with the paper application, of course, is it's more expensive, but it is a little bit more tested. Ultimately, it's up to you guys how you want to file. Any other questions about this? I know a lot of people are very curious.
Yes, for the paper application, usually people do like a tracking number or like,
Yeah,
and then do we automatically get a tracking number once it's sent out back to the university, to the ISS office, or how will we?
You don't get a tracking number, but you do, it'll notify you once it's arrived at the post office.
With like an email?
Yeah, you'll get, so you'll enter in into the form or to the online service, you'll enter in your email, and so it'll notify you using that email. And you can choose any email you want to enter in there, and it'll go to that email.
Okay.
So the shipping options, you don't technically have to use like FedEx or like a special, service like tracking, but we would really, really recommend that so that you have evidence that you sent the application off. Really, really recommend it. Any other questions? Kingsley, Madi, Lucas? No?
Okay.
All right. So responsibilities during OPT, what are some of those? We already talked about one at the very beginning of this presentation.
So the responsibilities are the same as being an F1 student. And the other thing is that I think we have to report once in a while, or maybe one time, I'm not sure about that, to USCIS.
Okay. Dang, Muddy, you're getting all these answers correct. You really did your homework for this. Yeah, this is good. So yeah, still have to do those travel signatures, and there's some reporting involved, and we're going to talk about that. So because those are very, very important things. So first of all, if you'll complete your program earlier than the end date currently listed on your I-20, your I-20 will be shortened for the OPT application. So do any of you have an I-20 that's set to expire in 2022 or 2023? End date? What's yours, Kingsley?
May 12th, I think.
Oh, wow. You're good for you. What year? 2022?
22, yeah.
Okay.
Next year.
Yeah. Some people have 2023. Some even have 2024. When you guys apply, we're going to shorten that I-20 to the program end date that we determine with your academic advisor. Don't panic. That doesn't mean, if you complete on December 17th and we shorten it to December 17th, that doesn't mean you get kicked out of the country on the 18th. That just means that you're completing your program and we're showing that you qualify to apply for the post-completion OPT benefit. You can still stay in the United States while they're processing your application and for your OPT period. Very importantly, you cannot work on campus after the program end date listed on your OPT I-20. Oops. This is such an important point. So if we set it to December 17th as the end date, you have to stop working on December 17th. If you work on December 18th, you violated status. If you violated status, you're no longer eligible for post-completion OPT. It doesn't happen very often. It's happened maybe 2, 3, 4 times since I came here. And those are really, really disappointed people when they lose that OPT. It's totally unfair. It's a ridiculous rule, but it is what it is. And, you know, unfortunately, we're required by the Department of Homeland Security to terminate immigration records in that situation. So yeah, please keep that in mind. It's very avoidable. Just stop working on that program end date. That's true even if you haven't completed your thesis or dissertation. That's true even if your OPT has not been approved yet. It's true even if you've received an electronic notice that your OPT was approved, but you have not received the EAD card. You're going to hear me say it a couple of times in the next few minutes. You cannot begin work until you have the EAD card in hand and the date is active on the card. Both things have to be true for you to be able to start work on OPT. That's true even if you requested an OPT start date that is passed. Still have to wait for the EAD card. It's true even if you received an electronic notice that your OPT was approved. Still have to wait for the card. And that's true even if you have received an approval notice document from USCIS. Card in hand, date active on the card. Both things have to be true or it's a violation of status. And this is a horrible example of what an EAD card looks like. We got this from the Department of Homeland Security. We have to use the one that they provide because we can't scan somebody's EAD card because that's their private document. So we have to use this horrible example that's very pixelated. So it's not a very clean scan. The person's name, their specimen, test 5 is their name. Sounds like a cyborg. This gentleman is apparently from Ethiopia. Another reason why this is a horrible example, he does not look very Ethiopian. He was born on January 1st, 1920. So he's aged very well. And yeah, he was given 31 years of OPT. So realistically, the dates, the valid from and card expires, realistically, this is going to say something for you guys like, you know, January 23rd, 2022 to January 22nd, 2023. Realistically is what this is going to look like. And then this down here scares the heck out of a lot of our students. Not valid for re-entry to the United States. Why does this scare the heck out of a lot of our international students? What do they think this means?
They think this is a visa, but this is not.
No, that's not what they think.
They probably think that they're like not even with their I-20 allowed to go in. But I think what this is just saying is that if you leave your I-20 in the US, go to Germany and try to get back in with this card, is that you are not allowed to go in.
Yeah, so what they think is that they can't travel outside the United States, so that they're prisoners in the United States. And Madi was hinting at this. So Madi, you were correct. So you still have to bring all your other documents is what it's saying. This is not some magic talisman that just gets you through immigration and you don't have to have anything else. You still have to have your travel I-20. You still have to have your EAD, or you have to have this, your visa, all those other documents and this thing. So, but you can't just use this to get through and this is like a magic thing that you can use and all your problems will be solved with immigration. So still have to have all those other documents when you travel. If you choose to have your EAD card mailed directly to you, so it doesn't come to our office, it goes straight to you guys. So you'll want to make sure that you scan it and upload a copy to ISS link so that we can see your EAD card and that you've been approved. During your OPT period, we'll extend your access to the UARC email, ISS link, UA Connect. You should have all those for OPT, STEM OPT, and your 60-day grace period. You should always have access to those. And Very importantly, what Madi was saying earlier, you must submit all required reports through ISS link. So reporting is a really, really important new responsibility that you guys have while you're on post-completion OPT. While you're on post-completion OPT, you must report the following to us no later than 10 days after any of these events occurring. Beginning employment, ending employment has to be reported within 10 days of the change. So when you report an employment update, we will issue you a new I-20 to reflect the update. So the way this works, sorry, we accidentally haven't highlighted it. I should have done that. F1 practical training is where you'll click in ISS link. Then you'll select OPT report employment. And then you'll enter in the information like company you work for, your supervisor's name, the start date, all of that, and you'll click submit. Once you submit it, we'll print you a new I-20 after we approve it, and that I-20 will show OPT approved, not just OPT pending. So you've been approved for OPT, and it'll have your employer's information on the back. So, oh, any questions about this? Because this is sometimes a tricky thing for people, but we really want to make sure that we're doing this.
Once we leave here, like let's say we're in California or Florida, New York, wherever, how are we getting these new I-20s? Are they going to be shipped to us, or is it just like electronically and we keep our old one?
We can't do electronic, so we can't send PDFs because they haven't been signed yet. So that's a requirement, or you haven't signed them yet. So we would ship it to you by mail. All of your I-20s, Lucas, have, I don't know if you've looked at them closely, but if you hold them up to the light, there's a watermark on them and you can see the Tower of Old Main. You don't have that paper, so you wouldn't be able to print that off. So it would also look like it was like a fake or something like that, because all of our I-20, and you definitely don't want that when you're going through immigration. So, yeah. So it'll have that watermark, and that shows that it's actually from us.
Okay.
But yeah, good question. Any other questions, Kingsley, Madi, about this? No? Okay. Another thing that will happen is when your OPT is approved, you'll get this email from USCIS. So they will encourage you to set up a SevP portal account. So it's this SevP portal. It's a way for students to submit OPT reports and updates directly to the Department of Homeland Security. While the ISS office does not recommend entering information into the portal, we do encourage you to set up an account to be able to view information about your OPT. So you guys are not required to report information in the portal. There's very useful information there if you want to view it, but we've seen students make mistakes when they've entered information in to this, and you don't want to make mistakes when you're reporting directly to the Department of Homeland Security. I don't think I need to explain why. So as long as you guys do your reporting in ISS link, we'll filter that information and enter it into the Department of Homeland Security's website for you. That way there are no errors. So because we don't want to make any mistakes when we do report things. So very, very important. But there is some useful information to view here. So I think you might be able, I'm not sure, but you might be able, because this is the student side, I can't see it. But I think that you might be able to see the number of unemployment days you have there. But you'll have to check it out when you get this. While you're on post-completion OPT, you must report the following to ISS within 10 days of any changes occurring: living address or phone number. Where should you guys should already know, where do you report that? Change of address or change of phone number? Because you guys have been doing that for years now.
I do it on UA Connect.
Perfect. Yep, UA Connect. Yeah, a lot of students say ISS link, but it's UA Connect. The reason this is important is because it's another requirement by the Department of Homeland Security. It's not our office, it's the Department of Homeland Security. I would say about 70% of our students move outside of the Arkansas area for their OPT. So this is going to be relevant to, to 2 out of the 3 people in this conversation, or 2 out of 3 of our students in this conversation, because it is so frequent. And yeah, you'll submit those through UA Connect. Please avoid OPT employment scams. This has been an issue in recent years. There are these companies that are set up and they charge you money. You have to pay money and they will employ you. So for OPT, that should set off alarm bells in your brain if they're saying you pay them to be employed. So these companies are Integra, Wireclass, Aztec, and there are others. These are just some of the ones that we know about. And basically, if you do this and you report employment, you're engaging in fraud, which is a felony. So because you're reporting employment when you're not actually employed, and it can cause serious legal issues. It will most likely result in arrest if they find out about it. And you can see right here, this is something from October of 2020, a year ago. So ICE arrested 15 non-immigrant students for fraud who did something like this. So please avoid this. Don't pay to be employed. So that should set off alarm bells in your brain when you hear that offer. Oh, any questions about any of the reporting, anything like this? We'll head to the last section now. So travel during OPT is something we always get asked about. Lucas was asking about this earlier. Very, very understandable concern that you guys would have. Travel outside the United States during the OPT period is significantly more risky than traveling during your academic program. We generally do not recommend travel during this time. However, the choice is ultimately yours. There are times when it's significantly safer to travel than others during the OPT period, and we're going to talk about when that is now. But strongly, strongly recommend that you do not travel outside the United States while your OPT application is pending. So while it's being processed by USCIS. Very often what will happen is USCIS will interpret that as you're abandoning your application. You're no longer interested in applying for OPT when you fly back to Germany. So they think that you've departed, no longer interested, cancel Lucas's application. Another thing that we've seen is this happened, I had this on live chat a couple years ago. We had a student who she decided, just like I would want to do, she decided she was going to fly back home and wait for her application to process. Went back home to her home in the Caribbean. So her EAD card arrived at her apartment. Her roommate mailed it to her in the Caribbean and it got lost on the way. To apply for a replacement, she needs to be in the United States. To get in the United States, she needs an EAD card. So that person, she lost her OPT, unfortunately. Couple of different scenarios like this. It's really risky. Please don't do it. Ultimately, the choice is yours. So much, much safer scenario after OPT is approved, but there's still some risk. And we'll talk about what that risk is. But much, much safer to try and travel once your OPT is approved. We've had lots of students do it, but there's still some risk involved. Once they've approved it, you will be expected to have your EAD card in hand when you return, in addition to your Form I-20 with travel signature, your valid passport, valid visa, and a letter of employment if you have one. So if you exceed the limits of unemployment while outside the United States, you will not be eligible to return to the United States in F1 status. If you travel outside the United States after OPT is approved, you must have a specific type of travel signature, which I'm going to show you in a second. Travel signatures, as always, are valid for 6 months. So, and when you report new employment during OPT, we'll issue you an updated I-20 and we'll just give you a travel signature. That way you can travel if you decide you want to. Very importantly, this is very cute. You do not have to travel simply because we give you a travel signature. So we've had students who panicked when they saw that we gave them a travel signature. They thought we were kicking them out of the United States, that they had to go on vacation. So no one will force you to go on vacation. You don't have to go and visit your family if you don't want to. You don't have to go on a cruise of the Caribbean or whatever else you might want to do. It's just there if you want to use it. So this is what the travel signature looks like. It looks like a standard travel signature right here. So signature, date. Right here, though, we have an OPT stamp. So says that travel is valid from September 21st, 2018 to March 21st, 2019, 6 months. And it says have to have an EAD card with evidence of employment. So we have to have those in addition to all the other stuff we normally have. And this is where it gets tricky, why it's risky to travel even still while you're on OPT. So you'll need to have all of these documents. So valid travel signature on your I-20 is one thing you need to have. Valid F1 visa stamp. This is the tricky part. Anybody have a visa that will expire before they're on OPT or it's already expired? Yeah. Okay, Lucas still has one, but yeah, Kingsley and Mahdi, so you have expired visas. So the next time you travel outside the United States, you will have to apply for an F1 visa to get back into the United States. And that can be tricky because they say average of 5 to 10 business days to process them. That is not always the case. This can take up to a month. Maybe you aren't able to take that much time off of work. It is incredibly more complicated of an issue during the pandemic, in a pandemic situation. There are second, third, fourth waves of COVID-19. There are different variants of COVID-19. We don't know when they're going to shut down the US embassy in this corner of the world and when they're going to open them up in this corner. That's totally unpredictable. I am not a fortune teller. I can't tell you if they're, in 4 months, if they're going to shut down. So the US embassy in the Bahamas, I have no idea. So so please keep this in mind before you travel. So especially if you have a visa stamp that is expired. Want to make sure that you do not exceed the maximum number of allowable unemployment days. Got to have that EAD card. Need to have evidence of current employment or a job offer. What kind of evidence could we use for this to prove that we have a job offer or employment?
Contract.
Yeah, but maybe the contract is no longer valid. Maybe you lost your job.
Okay.
No, I mean, it happens. People, you have your contract and then you get fired later on, or you leave for a better position. What were you going to say, Mahdi?
Paychecks.
Yeah, maybe. So what we always recommend is a letter. So a letter from your employer on company letterhead, signed. So please don't. One student showed me like an email that they printed out from their boss. You've seen, I'm horrible with technology. I can fake an email in like 5 minutes. So it's not that hard to do, but something on company letterhead, signed in ink, note from your boss that says, Mahdi is, approved to go on vacation for 2 weeks, go back home. So from this date to this date, something like that, that looks official. Immigration officials, they love paper and they love things that look official. I don't know why they love paper so much, but they do. That's the end of OPT. So if you have questions, you're welcome to ask those now. We'll take a small break for me to be able to do that. We do have about a 5-10 minute short presentation on STEM if you're interested. If you want to leave because you're tired of hearing me talk about work authorizations, OPT, visas, I will not be offended. I will be very sympathetic to that. But yeah, I'll do questions and then we can start talking about STEM in a couple minutes. Any questions on anything we covered, anything that I missed out on?
I've one short question.
Sure.
Well, I was kind of thinking going to Germany before my job starts in February, because there's basically like 6 weeks in between. Little unsure now because I guess I would have to get this letter first. In case I would travel in the US and go towards the West Coast, do I personally have to pick up my EAD card at the U of A and the ISS office, or is there any way that you guys ship it to my new address?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you decide that you're going to travel all over the US, whatever, that's totally fine. The EAD card, you have 3 options if you have it sent here. You can come and pick it up yourself. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to do it in this scenario. Yeah. You can have us ship it to you, but you would need to pay for the private courier through eShip Global. I wouldn't send that through the regular mail. Up to you. We can send it in the regular mail if you want, but we don't pay for the expedited shipping through the special courier service, you would
Yeah.
need to set that up. Third option is you can designate somebody else to pick it up for you.
Okay.
What was I going to say? I-20s, we can't give to third parties. You have to pick them up yourself, or we have to ship it specifically to you. EAD cards, you can designate someone else.
So do we have to pay every time we get a new I-20?
No, we can send the I-20s, we can send through the mail.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, if it gets lost in the mail, we can print you another one. If that gets lost, we can print you another one and send it to you. Those aren't a problem. The EAD card, like, you want to treat that like your firstborn child when you get it, because those things are a real pain to try and get replaced. So they
Is
take
that-
time, you have to pay money, like all this stuff. So take care of that EAD card. The moment you get it, scan it and keep it in your digital, put it in a cloud, keep it in your everywhere. So
Are we required to have that on hand every day at work, or do we just have to bring it first day and then we can put it in a drawer?
I would give it to your HR department. So that way they have it on file. I don't think you need to take it every day to work.
Okay.
So I've never been asked that question. That's a good question. I could ask about that and find out for you if you want to follow up with me on chat. I don't think people usually take them to work with them. If you
Okay.
travel, definitely want to have that with you.
Okay.
So, but yeah, great question. Anything else, Kingsley, Madi?
I
Yeah.
forgot my other question, maybe in a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So we want to go ahead and start delving into STEM OPT. Let's do it. So STEM OPT. What do you guys remember about this? What do you know about STEM OPT?
It's an extension
Correct.
for the initial OPT. And in this case, we have to be employed full-time for a major that is related, for a job type that is related to our major.
Correct. Perfect. Anything else, guys?
And you can't use volunteer work to
Yeah, sorry about
the
that.
unemployment thing. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead. We'll just dive right into it. So STEM OPT valid for 24 additional months. So OPT ends, your STEM OPT starts. You guys there's no flexibility on the dates. So the day that your OPT expires, so that next day, then your STEM OPT begins. Only available to students already engaged in post-completion OPT. First, you work for 9 months, then you apply for STEM OPT under post-completion OPT. Only available to students with a qualifying STEM degree. So has to be science, technology, engineering, and mathematics degree. Anybody have any concern that their major isn't STEM? You guys are all positive? Lucas, that's not a very confident face you have right now.
Mechanical engineer, I guess.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's yeah. If you got engineering in the title, it's definitely STEM. Yeah, that definitely qualifies. Okay, so only available to students whose employer participates in E-Verify. This is a big difference between post-completion OPT and STEM OPT. Post-completion OPT, most people don't have an EAD card, or excuse me, they don't have a job lined up. So STEM OPT, you have to have a job lined up, and it has to be with an E-Verified employer, or we can't even file an application with you. Lifetime limit of 2 periods of STEM OPT authorization. So did any of you guys do STEM OPT based on your undergraduate? No? Okay, so this doesn't apply to any of you guys. Must be employed by a qualifying employer on a full-time basis. So no volunteer activity is permitted, just like Kingsley said. So no self-employment. So none of those startups, none of those independent contractor jobs. So, and no more than 150 days of unemployment permitted during STEM OPT and post-completion OPT combined. So any days of unemployment that you have left over after your 1 year of post-completion OPT, those roll over and you get 60 more. So that scenario we had during post-completion OPT, that student had 47 days of unemployment remaining. How many days of unemployment does he have when his STEM period begins?
13?
What?
What? Oh no,
Oh my gosh,
73.
Kingsley.
Sorry,
Oh
sorry.
my God. Are
I
you going
mean,
to be a math teacher?
hold on.
You're going to mess these
Wait.
kids up.
No, no, I'm kidding.
Oh man.
103, I
107.
think. Or
107.
7.
So yeah, so
I was
60, yeah, you
close.
have 47, you add 60, 107. Don't worry, everyone's brain is fried by this point in the presentation. Nobody can do math at this point. I only knew that because I've asked that question a bunch of times. So yeah, anything you have left rolled over and you get 60 more. Absolutely. To be eligible for STEM OPT, got to meet all these criteria. So currently hold F1 status. You guys are good on that. Engaged in an authorized period of post-completion OPT. So we're already in the OPT period when we apply. You've completed a qualifying STEM degree in a major field of study designated by Homeland Security. It's got to be on this list that I'm about to show you. Have to have current employment or an offer of employment for an E-verified participating employer. And what a lot of our really smart students do is when they are applying for their post-completion OPT jobs, they try to find a E-verified employer. Why is that a smart thing to do? To try and look for E-verified employer for post-completion OPT. You don't have to have one.
They can just stay within the same company and everything's probably easier.
Do one job search. Yeah, one job search is nicer than 2 job searches. So you can save yourself a lot of time and energy and stress. So, because like I've seen people who they get towards the end of their post-completion OPT, they're freaking out. They haven't found a STEM employer yet. So it doesn't always work out that way, but it's not a bad thing to try and look out for. And your employer has to be willing to complete a STEM training plan, a Form I-983 for you, and will agree to comply with all Homeland Security requirements for STEM OPT authorization. So this I-983 it's a 5-page document, and it's the big difference between the STEM application and the post-completion OPT application. A lot of our students, especially the ones who don't attend this webinar or a STEM webinar, they think the processes are the same. It's not. The I-983 takes more time to complete. So you have to complete one portion yourself. Human Resources Department has to complete another, and then your supervisor has to complete another section. So if you get this completed in 24 hours, you are amazing. It almost never happens. So please start working on this in advance. So realize this is probably going to take you a couple days, a week, sometimes 2 weeks to get this thing completed. So take that into account when you're budgeting for time. This, if you're uncertain, you're not 100% sure your major qualifies, you can see this list at the Study in the States OPT hub. You can click on this hyperlink, but we have this big list of designated STEM majors. So we have agroecology, animal science, agricultural and animal breeding, animal health, all this stuff qualifies as STEM OPT. If your major is on this list, then you can go ahead and you can apply for STEM OPT with us. If it's not on this list, unfortunately, we can't file an application with you. While you're on STEM OPT, you must continue to report all the previous items in ISS Link no later than 10 days after the events occur, starting or stopping employment. In addition to that, you must complete the following reports to ISS. So you have validation reports are due 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months after STEM OPT begins. And these reports are pretty simple. Most people can finish them in 5 minutes or less. Basically, you just go into ISS Link, click on the form, you say, still working at the same job, still living at the same place, life is great, and you click submit. Very, very basic. That said, they're incredibly time sensitive. We have a fixed window that we can submit these. If we try to submit them 1 day later, they won't even allow us to do it in CVIS. We'll be blocked. The option will disappear. So really, really want to be timely about this. In addition, the 12-month validation report and the 24-month validation report, you'll need to complete a self-evaluation on your I-983 and submit that with the 12-month and the 24-month reports. During STEM OPT, you must also comply with the following. If you start a new job, you and your employer must complete a new I-983 and submit it to ISS. Every job that you have during STEM OPT has its own I-983 for each employer. If there's a material change in your employment, you and your employer must complete a new Form I-983 and submit it to ISS. What the heck is a material change on your I-983? Any ideas? Brains are fried, can't answer. Okay, yeah, I understand. So I'm tired at this point as well. So any information on the I-983 that changes, you'll need to make an update to it. So like if your supervisor changes, then you'll need to update it and submit it. If you get a promotion, you'll need to update the I-983 and update the title that you've been elevated to. Anything on the I-983 changes, you'll want to update that and submit it in ISS link. And if you end employment, you must complete a final evaluation and submit it to ISS, even if you're not at the 12 or 24 month reports yet. So still have to complete that. And your STEM OPT extension application can be submitted no more than 90 days before your standard OPT expires. The best way to calculate this is when you get your post-completion OPT EAD card, you'll have your end date for post-completion OPT on the EAD, and you'll want to calculate 90 calendar days before that. So that's the earliest date that you can apply for STEM OPT. But what I would recommend, because that I-983 can take about a week, 2 weeks to get all completed, I would recommend starting the application process maybe about 105 days before your OPT ends. That way you can have everything ready to go 90 days before your OPT expires. You can apply the first date that you're eligible. Your OPT application or your application must be received by USCIS before the end date on your EAD card. You cannot apply after that EAD card expires. So it is like Cinderella. So at midnight, the party ends. So, and yeah, you can't take advantage of STEM OPT. So please make sure you apply before that end date. You are allowed to work up to 180 days. Oh, this is one of the best things about STEM OPT. Everybody loves this. You are allowed to work up to 180 days past the end date of your EAD card while your application is being processed, as long as your application is received by USCIS before the end date of your EAD card. Why is this such fantastic, amazing information that we love about STEM OPT and is different than post-completion OPT? So you don't need to have,
I
go
guess
ahead.
we can start working and we don't have to wait for the EAD card to like show, like once we get there, we can just start.
Yeah. The time you're waiting for your EAD card to come can be stressful. So students are not very happy, especially when they get to like the 60-day of waiting mark. They start like, yeah, I get a lot of people on live chat like, where's my EAD? It's almost 90. Like, you have 30 days until 90 days, like, relax. But I've never been through this situation. I understand why people get stressed out about it. You want to be able to work. You want to be able to make money. Don't have to go through any of that for the STEM EAD card. As long as you file a timely application, you can start on your STEM OPT even if your application has not been completed yet. So that's a fantastic thing. You can wait up to 180 days so while your application is processing. But one of the reasons why we really encourage you to apply as early as possible is that different states have different policies about when you can renew your driver's license. Some of them expect you to have an EAD card for the STEM period before they will authorize you for an extended driver's license. So we do want you to be aware of this for that reason. If you're telecommuting, that's not as big of an issue. But if you have to drive across town to get to work each day, you might want to apply, as early as possible. And this is the window, of course, right here. We have last day of your post-completion OPT on your EAD card, 90 days before, 90 days before is the earliest date that you can apply. You'll notice here, we don't have anything like we did for post-completion OPT because here it's already too late. And yeah, apply for STEM as early as possible. So the process to apply for STEM OPT is more complicated. We talked about that. And even though you do not need a valid EAD to begin STEM OPT employment, applying later can cause complications in renewing your driver's license and state ID, like we already said. And that's it. We do have a STEM OPT webinar. It's shorter than this one. It's about an hour long. So that's one nice thing about it. And that's going to take place virtually, just like this one, on October 28th. You guys are welcome to attend it. You can register for it today if you want to. You don't have to. We will have a recording of it that you can watch. We'd really recommend that you watch one before you apply for STEM OPT, because we'll have the most updated version and the most relevant version of the webinar available the semester that you're going to apply. Any questions about STEM OPT, OPT, anything else? And please, if you guys need to go, you don't have to stick around and listen to questions and me talking more. I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice and you hate it at this point and need time away from it. I'm not offended.
Well, first, thank you very much.
Oh, sure, of course, Lucas.
One question. I'm guessing during the meeting that we will have with you for OPT, I'm talking about OPT now, will we have like a checklist, or like what will we have to put in the actual letter that we are sending out to Chicago or Homeland Security?
Which letter do you mean? Do you mean for
like the application? Like, I'm guessing that when like we did the online forms now,
Mhm.
and then when we come to the like appointment, will we go through an extra form or like an extra application that will be printed, or like what?
So the information that you entered into the e-form, we're going to use that to print out your I-765.
Okay, and that will be,
And that's what you'll ship to USCIS. Or if you apply online, which it sounds like Madi might do, then you'll use that and you'll enter the information in on the USCIS website, the My USCIS, to complete your application. So either way, you need that I-765 for sure. But you'll actually be signing it and shipping it with your application if you choose to apply by paper.
will we have to attach any like the old I-20s, J1, passport copy, I-94, all these documents that we upload also into the ISS link, or no?
We'll provide you with instructions for how to
Okay.
assemble it, and it will have every item on it that you
Okay,
need
that's
to
what I was
include.
asking.
No, that's
Okay.
a great question. That's a very good question. So yeah, we'll provide you the instructions that are detailed on how to assemble it. It'll have a list of the documents you need to include, and we'll go through each item to make sure that you're comfortable with how to assemble it. And you'll be able to keep it. We'll give you a paper copy of it. So yeah, you should be good to go. But yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Kingsley, Madi, nothing?
I have
Yeah.
more like a personal question, but I can also go on the chat. I was just wondering.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, if you have anything personal, you're more than welcome. You can schedule. I have appointments available on Monday. If you want to have a face-to-face consultation, you can still schedule like a 15-minute consultation if you have personal questions that you don't like to talk about. Because this is getting recorded, it's going on YouTube. So if you have anything personal, I totally understand that you don't want to have that like for everybody to see for the next 6 months.
Oh, that's
So-
okay. No, I was just wondering that because my professor didn't answer me and I don't see him Monday, and I would like to have the meeting with you on Monday about the date that he put in. But I can go also in the live chat because it's active right now and ask.
Yeah, so Ms. Johnston, so she's on live chat right now. So if you want to
Okay.
exit this, not a problem at all. You can jump on live chat. If it's all completed, then you should be able to book.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good talking to you,
I
Lucas.
appreciate
Hope I'll
it.
see you on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
absolutely. Good talking to you, Madi. Kingsley.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye.
absolutely. Kingsley, any questions?
Not at this point. It's kind of a lot to take in.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, you know, if you're anything like me, I'm the type of person who I'll go to something like this or like a doctor's appointment. I won't have any questions. And then I go for a walk and I think of like 3 questions, like on the way to my car or going through the park. If you have any questions, just write them down. You can always log on to live chat. You can schedule a consultation with me for Monday and we can talk about it then. So, but yeah, I hope you found it useful. You guys have been a great audience and thanks for agreeing for us to record you.